They stopped for a rest, and they stopped in a place that today we call Naphtha Playa.
Some things in history make you stop and question everything you thought you knew. You see, we like to believe civilization began with small villages, simple farming, and the slow climb toward greatness. But then archaeologists go and dig up something that flips the script entirely. And trust me, this latest discovery, it's a total game changer.
The grooves were carved. That's called fluting. And then a layer of plaster was added to make it look like marble.
We're talking about a 12,000-year-old structure that makes the Egyptian pyramids look like brand new apartment complexes. So, hold on to your hats, because this find at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey is about to blow your mind. Let me take you back to 1963, where it all started.
Very sensitive site. It's one of the oldest sites in the world. So you're looking at
Some sharp-eyed archaeologists from Istanbul University and the University of Chicago were kicking the dirt around in southeastern Turkey when they stumbled upon some stone tools. They guessed the site was Neolithic, which is just a fancy term for really old, but they had no clue just how colossal their find was. Fast forward to 1994, and enter Klaus Schmidt, a German archaeologist with a knack for recognizing the big deals in the dirt. Schmidt had been rooting around a similar site and had a hunch that Göbekli Tepe was not just another pile of rocks. His first clue, those massive stone slabs peeking out of the ground like nature's own game of hide and seek. Starting in 1995, Schmidt and his team began to dig. And oh boy, did they hit the jackpot. They uncovered gigantic T-shaped stone pillars, some towering at 16 feet tall and weighing a hefty 10 tons. But it wasn't just their size that was impressive. These pillars were decked out with carvings of all sorts of critters: foxes, lions, scorpions, and even vultures. It's like the ancient artists were trying to one-up each other in an epic stone-carving showdown. Using ground-penetrating radar, a tool that's as sci-fi as it sounds, they discovered at least 16 more stone circles buried beneath the surface. Turns out, Göbekli Tepe wasn't just a site, it was a mega-site, constructed way back when everyone was still living the hunter-gatherer lifestyle. Schmidt's theory? This place was the original party central, a temple where folks from all over came to hang out and maybe partake in a ritual or two. It's a groundbreaking idea, pun intended, because it suggests these ancient builders were throwing up monumental structures long before they figured out farming or settled into villages. The discovery of Göbekli Tepe turned the archaeological world on its head. It wasn't just about finding a bunch of old stones. It was about uncovering evidence that our ancestors were capable of pulling off massive projects together long before they settled down to become farmers. This could mean that the urge to gather and celebrate was the real catalyst for forming permanent communities and eventually cultivating crops. Not to be outdone, let's jet over to France in the 1950s, where workers in Brittany were just doing their thing, breaking rocks on private land for paving stones. Little did they know they were about to stumble upon the cairn of Barnenez, a Neolithic megastructure so old it makes the Egyptian pyramids look like recent construction projects. We're talking about a structure that dates back to around 4,800 BC. Yes, that's over 6,800 years ago. So this cairn, right near Pluisoc, turned out to be one of the oldest man-made structures on the planet. Imagine quarry workers in the mid-20th century just doing their thing, blasting away, when suddenly, oops, what's this? An ancient burial chamber? That's exactly what happened in 1955, when the activities at the quarry accidentally cracked open several chambers inside the cairn. Enter Pierre Roland Gillot, an archaeologist who was basically the Indiana Jones of the University of Rennes. He caught wind of this monumental boo-boo and quickly intervened. Recognizing the site's massive historical significance, Gillot got the quarrying stopped and rolled out a rescue excavation plan. Between 1955 and 1968, under Gillot's watchful eye, the site underwent a major facelift. Vegetation was cleared and the entire area was studied meticulously. The cairn itself is no small potatoes. It measures a whopping 72 meters in length and 25 meters in width, with a height of over 8 meters. We're talking about a structure made of roughly 13,000 to 14,000 tons of stone. And here's a fun fact: it wasn't built all at once. The builders of Barnanez kicked things off with local dolerite stone between 4,850 and 4,250 BC, and then added more flair with granite from nearby quarries between 4,450 and 4,000 BC. Inside, the cairn was like a walk-through gallery of Neolithic art. The walls of its 11 separate burial chambers were decorated with engravings of axes, bows, and serpentine shapes. And the goodies didn't stop there. Archaeologists digging through the site also found pottery shards, polished stone axes, and flint tools, everyday items of the people who built this massive tomb. Thanks to Gio's sharp eye and quick thinking, the cairn of Barnanez was saved from becoming just another road in France. It's now recognized for its incredible historical importance, offering us a glimpse into the architectural and artistic skills of Neolithic societies. And while we're on the subject of ancient structures, let's not forget the Gantija temples in Gozo, Malta. Dating back to around 3600 BC, these structures aren't just old, they're practically prehistoric, and their name, it comes from the Maltese word Gant, which means giant. According to local legends, these massive temples were built by giants. Now let's rewind to 1827, when Colonel John Otto Bayer, the then Lieutenant Governor of Gozo, decided it was time to play in the dirt. He kicked off the first known excavation of the site. You'd think he'd treat every unearthed item like a treasure, right? Wrong. Sadly, during his dig, the soil and artifacts were tossed aside without much thought, losing oodles of valuable archaeological info to the winds of carelessness. But the temples were no secret even before Bayer started digging up a storm. Back in the late 1700s, a French artist named Jean-Pierre Huel came by, took one look at the ruins, and went to town with his sketchpad. His detailed drawings, made before any formal digs, turned out to be spot on, and are now a goldmine for understanding the site's original swagger. After Bayer's time, the temples kind of fell off the radar. Talk about being ghosted by history. It wasn't until they made the antiquities list of 1925 that people began to take notice again. Jump to 1933, and the Maltese government said, "Enough is enough," and took over the land. This kicked off a flurry of archaeological investigations that lasted until 1959, with the goal of sprucing up the place and figuring out what the ancients were up to. Fast forward to 1980, and bam! UNESCO steps in and declares the Gantija temples a World Heritage Site. Since then, it's been one restoration project after another, all in the name of keeping the temples standing and schooling us about the Neolithic period. And if that wasn't cool enough, in 2013, the Gantija Heritage Park threw open its doors. Complete with an interpretation center, it's the perfect spot for anyone looking to dive deep into the life and times of those who walked these lands over 5,000 years ago. However, it was around the same time that Newgrange, in County Meath, Ireland, was hanging around. In 1699, a local landowner named Charles Campbell was doing a bit of quarrying on his land, probably hoping to find something mundane, like stone. Instead, he stumbled across the entrance to what turned out to be an ancient tomb. This unexpected discovery grabbed the attention of Edward Llwyd, a Welsh antiquarian who was quick to explore the site. He wasn't exactly charmed, though, referring to the carvings he found as barbarous sculpture. Inside, he spotted animal bones and beads, which must have been quite the sight. Following in Llwyd's footsteps, other scholars, including the notable Sir Thomas Molyneux from Trinity College Dublin, made their way to Newgrange. Molyneux found human remains within the tomb, which certainly spiced up the mystery of the place. The real game changer in understanding Newgrange came between 1962 and 1975 when archaeologist Michael J. O'Kelly led a major excavation and restoration project. He uncovered the full grandeur of Newgrange, revealing its clever design aligned with the winter solstice sunrise. On the shortest day of the year, the rising sun beams straight into the inner chamber through a special roof box above the entrance. This neat architectural trick highlights the astonishing astronomical smarts of its ancient builders. O'Kelly and his crew didn't just hit the jackpot with cool sun tricks, they also found a treasure trove of artifacts. They unearthed both burnt and unburnt human bones, along with what might have been grave goods or votive offerings. This peek into the burial practices and ceremonial life at Newgrange tells us that this place was more than just a tomb. It was a significant ceremonial site. What's equally impressive are the 97 large curbstones encircling the mound, many engraved with mysterious megalithic art. The entrance stone, with its striking carvings, is particularly famous. These symbols have been teasing the brains of archaeologists and visitors alike for centuries. Even though the Nap of Hower, nestled on the windswept island of Papa Westray in Orkney, Scotland, doesn't tell a story of striking carvings, it is much older than the pyramids. Built around 3700 BC, we're talking about one of the oldest stone residences in northern Europe. Now, in the 1920s, a fierce storm ruffled the Scottish coastlines. Amidst the aftermath, William Trail, the landowner, spotted something incredible. Pieces of sturdy stone walls, peeking out from the earth, like history begging to be rediscovered. Intrigued, so was he. By the summer of 1929, Trail and his buddy William Kirkness started digging, and they finally hit the historic jackpot. They uncovered not one, but two stone buildings linked by a passage, initially believed to be relics from the Iron Age. Fast forward to the 1970s, and enter archaeologist Anna Ritchie. With a fresh set of eyes and modern techniques, Ritchie dives into the site and unveils a truth that sends shockwaves through the archaeological community. The buildings were from the early Neolithic age. We're talking over 5,000 years old. The artifacts found inside, including pottery shards, stone tools, and animal bones, painted a vivid picture of Neolithic life. These were not just shelters. They were homes to farmers who cultivated barley and wheat and raised livestock like cows, sheep, and pigs. The craftsmanship of our Neolithic ancestors is nothing short of impressive. The two buildings at Nap of Hower are remarkably well preserved. The larger structure was likely the main living area, while the smaller served as a workshop or for storage. Inside, you'd find stone cupboards, hearths for warmth, and partitions that divided the space into cozy rooms. And the walls still stand around 1.6 meters high, despite millennia passing by. That's surviving the test of time with grace. Today, sitting closer to the sea due to shifting coastlines over the millennia, the Nap of Hower offers a rare peek into a past long gone but beautifully preserved. Managed by Historic Environment Scotland, this site welcomes visitors eager to walk through the doorways of history. Now let's jet over to northern Sardinia, Italy, where Monte de' Coddi presents a mystery of monumental proportions. So, in 1954, a guy named Ercole Contu was just moseying around a field owned by the Segni family. He stumbles upon a massive mound of earth and thinks, could this be a nuraghe? For those in the know, a nuraghe is like the old-school Sardinian version of a skyscraper, but much shorter and way older. But as he dug, what did he find? Not a nuraghe, but something even cooler. A massive stone platform with a long ramp that screams, "I'm not just any old pile of rocks." This was the moment everyone realized they'd been walking over a buried treasure without even knowing it. And not just any treasure, but a structure dating back to between 4000 and 3650 BC, crafted by the hands of the Ozieri culture. They called the first part they built the Red Temple. Fast forward a bit in the timeline, and between 3500 and 3000 BC, another enterprising group decided to give it a makeover. They piled on earth and stones, popped a new platform on top, and voila, a step pyramid, which cheekily earned it the nickname the Sardinian Ziggurat. Jumping ahead to the swinging 70s and energetic 80s, another archaeologist named Santo Tine picked up where Kontu left off. From 1979 to 1989, he dug into the past, uncovering bits and bobs like pottery, tools, and animal bones. Oh, and let's not forget the standing stones called menhirs, and a hefty round stone that might have been the centerpiece at religious ceremonies. Imagine the hustle and bustle of ancient architects at work, turning a regular old hill into a layered cake of cultural significance. Monte Tacoti isn't just a pile of stones, it's a snapshot of a civilization that knew a thing or two about making an impression. And just think, all of this history was just hanging out, waiting to be rediscovered, hiding in plain sight under a field in Sardinia. But assuming Monte Tacoti had chosen to play a game of hide-and-seek alone, that would have been one thing. However, another structure, known as Nabta Playa, decided it wouldn't be left out. It all started in 1973, when a group trudged through the southern Egyptian desert, about 100 kilometers west of Abu Simbel. At the helm was American archaeologist Fred Wendorf. You might think they were just out for a desert stroll, but oh, they were onto something big. They started noticing stones and pottery fragments casually peeking out of the sand. Cue the intrigue and the beginning of a major archaeological reveal. Fast forward a bit, from 1974 to the early 1990s, and Wendorf, along with his team, was knee-deep in excavations at a place called Nabta Playa. They weren't just digging up dirt, they were uncovering a story. They found stone circles, hefty stone structures, and signs that once upon a time, people had called this place home. But not just any home, a home with a stellar view, quite literally. Enter one of their most headline-worthy discoveries, a stone circle that didn't just sit there looking pretty. No, this circle was aligned with the stars. Imagine living over 7,000 years ago. These folks were already mapping out the heavens. That wasn't just smart, that was ancient genius. But wait, there was more. In 1998, Wendorf decided to bring in the big shots. J. McKim Malville, a wizard in the niche field of archaeoastronomy. Malville took one look at this stone circle and confirmed it was aligned with the summer solstice. Why was that a big deal? Well, it turned out the ancient desert dwellers likely used this alignment to mark the start of the rainy season. Just when you thought your weather app was high-tech, these ancient folks were using giant rocks to plan their year. This discovery catapulted Nabta Playa into the limelight, making it one of the oldest known astronomical sites in the world. Yes, even older than Stonehenge. So next time you think of ancient astronomy, don't just picture druids in misty fields. Think of the desert dwellers of Nabta Playa, who were quite literally stars of the show. Nabta Playa's story opened a window into the lives of those who roamed the Sahara over 7,000 years ago. These weren't just survivalists braving the harsh desert conditions, they were astronomers, engineers, and architects of their own fate, guided by the stars and the seasons. Now, let's shift our gaze from the arid deserts of Africa to the wild, windswept shores of Scotland, where the ancient village of Skara Brae lurks beneath the surface, waiting for its stories to be told. Who would have thought that a ferocious Scottish storm in 1850 would rip through the earth, peeling back layers like pages in a book to reveal the remnants of a village that predates the pyramids? Now, this wasn't your average backyard find. Skara Brae is seriously old school, dating back to about 3180 BC. To put that in perspective, when the first blocks were being laid down in Giza, Skara Brae had already been a ghost town for centuries. The man of the hour, or rather the century, was William Watt. This guy owned the land where Skara Brae was just chilling under the turf. With the curiosity of a cat and probably the excitement of a kid in a candy store, Watt began digging through what the storm had unveiled. He unearthed 4 stone houses and snagged a treasure trove of artifacts. But like all good things, the excitement dwindled, and the digging eventually hit a pause. Fast forward to 1924, and Mother Nature decided she wasn't done with her revelations. Another storm swept through, this time damaging part of what had been uncovered. This caught the eye of the folks, who realized that maybe there was something pretty important here. Enter Professor V. Gordon Childe from the University of Edinburgh. In 1927, he picked up where Watt left off, digging deeper and unveiling even more of Skara Brae's secrets. Childe's team expanded the excavation, discovering more houses and a heap of ancient everyday objects that gave a peek into the daily lives of the Neolithic people who once called Skara Brae home. But how old was this old village really? Thanks to the magic of radiocarbon dating, scientists could finally put a number on it. Turns out, Skara Brae was occupied from around 3180 BC to 2500 BC. Yes, that makes it over 5,000 years old. But let's not get stuck in the Scottish past. Let's hop over to France, circa 1840. While the common folk were preoccupied with everyday concerns, Louis de la Trémoille, a curious landowner, was about to make his estate famous. During what he thought was routine land clearing, turned unusual mound formations. Little did he know, these weren't just any bumps in the landscape, they were ancient secrets waiting to be uncovered. These mounds, known as the Tumulus of Bougon, turned out to be nothing short of spectacular. We're talking about a group of burial mounds that make the Egyptian pyramids look like recent construction projects. Yep, these structures date back to around 4700 BC, placing them among the oldest burial mounds in Europe. Imagine the stories these stones could tell if they could talk. The discovery itself was something of a fluke. You could say curiosity didn't kill the cat this time. It unearthed a cornerstone of Neolithic architecture. This complex of megalithic tombs was a historical jackpot hidden under the serene landscape. Each tumulus at the site flaunts a distinct architectural style that makes you wonder about the craftsmanship of our Neolithic ancestors. Tumulus A, for instance, is a stepped mound with a central rectangular chamber that was home to about 200 skeletons, neatly arranged in 3 layers and separated by stone slabs. But here's a little twist. The initial reports from those early digs were a bit on the vague side, which kind of throws a wrench in the works for anyone hoping to do a detailed, chronological analysis. Archaeologist Léon Couty didn't let that stop him though. In 1873, he dove in for a formal excavation, and it paid off. He unearthed stone tools, ceramics, and more human remains that offered a peek into the lives of those who roamed Europe over 6 millennia ago. But wait, it wouldn't be so nice of me to skip this one right here, called Cappadocia's Fairy Chimneys, nestled in the heart of Turkey. Famous for its fairy chimneys, those tall, thin rock spires were created by volcanic ash millions of years ago and shaped by erosion. These structures aren't just a treat for the eyes, they're a history lesson standing proud against the sky. And guess what? Some of the homes and churches carved into these soft rocks are believed to be even older than the Egyptian pyramids, which date back to around 2600 BC. Now, hold on to your hats, because this next part is where it gets really good. Back in 1963, a local in Nevşehir province was doing some DIY on his house when he stumbled upon a hidden room behind a wall. But this was no ordinary room, it was the gateway to the Derinkuyu underground city. Just imagine knocking down a bit of plaster in your living room and finding a secret passage to a lost city. This isn't just any underground city. We're talking about a vast, multi-level complex that dives about 280 feet deep. Talk about basement goals, right? Archaeologists got to work and figured that the initial construction started way back in the 8th or 7th century BC, possibly making these digs older than those famous pyramids. So, what was down there? Derinkuyu wasn't just a hidey hole but a full-blown subterranean metropolis. It could house around 20,000 people, complete with apartments, kitchens, wineries, and even a religious school. Imagine living there. Your address could literally be several feet underground, past the wine cellar. They even had ventilation shafts, wells, and massive stone doors, because, let's face it, privacy is a big deal, whether you're above ground or below ground. The discovery of Derinkuyu not only turned heads, but also shone a spotlight on the ingenuity of ancient civilizations in this region. This wasn't just about survival, it was about thriving in tough conditions, turning a challenge into a lifestyle. It highlighted how Cappadocia's residents weren't just making homes, they were carving out a community, quite literally, from the ground up. Discovering Derinkuyu in the 1960s provided significant insights into the region's long-standing traditions, proving that the people of Cappadocia were as much architects as they were artists. It's one thing to build a city, it's another to carve one out of the living rock itself. Now let's fast forward to another ancient marvel, Hagar Kim in Malta. Built between 3600 and 3200 BC, this old pile of rocks is even older than the pyramids in Egypt. Now that's what I call ancient. The name Hagar Kim itself means standing stones in Maltese, which is pretty straightforward, all things considered. Back in 1839, a chap named J.G. Vance, who was part of the Royal Engineers, started poking around the site. Imagine the thrill of unearthing a stone altar, a beautifully decorated slab, and not one, but 7 small stone statues. These weren't any knickknacks, they were pivotal in understanding the temple's past. These treasures were quickly whisked away to a museum in Valletta, the capital of Malta, where they probably got more attention than a celebrity on the red carpet. Then, as if the plot needed thickening, along came A.A. Caruana in 1885. This guy didn't just dig, he made detailed drawings and wrote extensive reports about his finds, which is like gold for historians and archaeologists. Fast forward to 1909, and you have Themistocles Zammit and Thomas Eric Peat jumping into the fray, digging deeper, both literally and figuratively, and unearthing more artifacts that shed light on this architectural wonder. The drama doesn't end there, though. In 1949, a real cliffhanger moment occurred when 3 small statues and pieces of a larger stone statue were discovered under a rectangular stone. It's like every layer of earth turned was a page in a mystery novel. The following year, the plot thickened with the discovery of the Venus of Malta, a statue that's as enigmatic as they come. Neither clearly male nor female, this statue sparked debates among scholars who think it might symbolize an idea or spirit, which is pretty forward-thinking for an ancient civilization, don't you think? However, the time hasn't been kind to Hagar Kim. The soft limestone from which the temple was built started to wear away over the centuries due to weather. In a move that's more preservation than renovation, a special tent was erected over the temple in 2009 to shield it from the elements. But you know which structure also has an interesting history behind it? It's Agrigento on Sicily's sunny coast. Let's zip back to around 580 BC. Yeah, that far back. That's when some adventurous Greeks from Gela decided to stamp their mark and set up the colony of Akragas, right where Agrigento stands today. Now, before Tommaso Fazzello stepped onto the scene, most folks just walked past these old stones without a second glance. Born in 1498 in the nearby town of Sciacca, this Italian Dominican friar turned historian was no ordinary dude. He was more like the Sherlock Holmes of Sicilian antiquity. In his killer book, De Rebus Siculis Decades Duae, which hit the shelves in Palermo in 1558, Fazzello rolled out the red carpet for these ancient sites, including good old Akragas. His work wasn't just a dust-dry recount, it was the spark that lit the fire of archaeological fervor in Sicily. Fast forward to the 19th century, and the Valley of the Temples is pulling crowds again, like a classical Coachella. Archaeologists got down and dirty, digging up and sprucing up some jaw-dropping structures. Take the Temple of Olympian Zeus. This behemoth, even in ruins, is like the heavyweight champ of Greek architecture, showing off the lofty ambitions of its ancient builders. But wait, there's more. In 2014, Maria Conchetta Perello and her team of history buffs launched a deep dive into Agrigento's soil. They unearthed the ancient theater of Akragas, a cultural hotspot where the ancients probably kicked back to watch the latest Sophocles play. This find wasn't just cool. It was a VIP pass to understanding the social and cultural vibes of the times. Now, don't think the discoveries stopped there. The archaeology game has leveled up big time. By 2024, thanks to some nifty geophysical surveys over an impressive 30,000 square feet around the main temples, a new building came into the limelight. Ancient Amazonian megalithic structures discovered. So, get this, archaeologists have stumbled upon massive structures in the Amazon that were literally hiding right under our noses for centuries. We're talking 20-meter-high pyramids, huge platforms, and entire networks of canals and causeways, all buried under that thick, dense jungle. For the longest time, everyone thought the Amazon was just home to small, scattered tribes. Nobody expected an organized, complex society with advanced construction skills, especially in the middle of such tough terrain. But here we are, discovering hundreds of settlements, some connected by these insane roadways, suggesting a culture way more developed than we gave them credit for. The structures, found near the Llanos de Mojos in Bolivia, were built by the Casarabe people between 500 CE and 1400 CE. They were likely farming, building, and thriving in ways that completely shake up everything believed about ancient Amazon civilizations. And what's even crazier, over 120 graves have been found so far. Some even contained offerings. This clearly means that the Casarabe society had social hierarchies and possibly even elaborate rituals. And if this can be found buried in one of the most remote, densely vegetated places on Earth, who knows what else is out there? There must be more lost cities just waiting to be discovered, right? Without the right tech, they've stayed hidden for centuries. But now, who's to say they won't be found next? The lost city of Honduras. Deep in the jungles of Honduras, they finally found the legendary White City, or City of the Monkey God. And it's not connected to the Inca, Aztec, or Maya. This is an entirely new culture. For years, tales of this mythical city have floated around, and explorers have been chasing its legend since the 16th century. Some even believe the city was home to vast treasures, and as one story goes, the monkey god himself. The thing is, no one could ever find it until Lee swooped in back in 2015. LIDAR technology, which scans through the jungle canopy to reveal what's beneath, uncovered the ruins of an ancient city. What's cool is that over 60 artifacts have already been found, including a clay vessel with vulture-shaped handles and a tray featuring a jaguar's head. Unlike the Bolivian or Amazonian finds, where civilizations were made of earth mounds and clay structures, the lost city of Honduras featured actual stone buildings, plazas, and ceremonial platforms hidden under centuries of dense vegetation. Rare artifact found, hunting for the lost city of gold. While searching for the legendary lost city of gold deep in the Peruvian jungle, explorers came across something pretty unexpected, an undiscovered underground Incan structure. This place had held up like a champ over the centuries, with perfect angles and solid construction that really highlighted the Incas' impressive skills. As they continued to hack their way through the thick jungle, they found a small ceramic artifact, a vase that looked just like a mini tree trunk with a quirky face carved into it. Seriously, how weird is that? Isn't it crazy to think about how much we've lost from ancient civilizations? What do you think is still out there, waiting to be uncovered, that could totally change how we see the past? A Roman house in a Turkish backyard. Can you believe this? An unauthorized dig in someone's backyard in Izmir, Turkey, led to the arrest of 3 suspects. But the real shocker, they uncovered an ancient Roman house. As officials inspected the site, get this, they had to descend into a hole. They were greeted by the impressive sight of an ancient Roman column, still standing tall after all these years. That's pretty fancy. Inside, they discovered remnants of a luxurious lifestyle, including a stunning tile mosaic on the floor, featuring winged human figures alongside roosters. Other architectural features began to emerge as the site was carefully excavated, revealing more about the lives of a wealthy Roman family from around 2,700 years ago. The slave room in Pompeii. In Pompeii, they recently uncovered a room that's believed to have been used by a family of slaves. Pretty wild, right? It all started when police stumbled upon some illegal tunnels dug by looters back in 2017. This little room, tucked away in a villa, had cramped bunk-like beds, 2 for adults and a smaller one for a child, along with remnants of everyday life from way back when. It really gives us a peek into the lives of people who usually don't get much attention in history books. But here's where it gets even more chilling. They found the skeletal remains of a wealthy man and his male slave, thought to have been caught by volcanic ash while trying to escape. A Roman treasure unearthed in Rutland. Can you believe what was found beneath a farmer's field in Rutland? An incredible Roman mosaic. This isn't just any mosaic. It tells the story of Achilles battling Hector from the Trojan War, which is pretty unique for Britain. It's laid out across 3 panels in a manner mimicking comic strips, giving us a pretty cool snapshot of ancient storytelling. The discovery happened when Jim Irvine, the farmer's son, noticed some pottery and followed up with satellite images that revealed more. Talk about a lucky find. The site is thought to be a high-status Roman villa, and it's so well preserved that it's now a scheduled monument, ensuring this piece of history will be protected. How amazing is it to think about what else might be hiding just beneath our feet? The ancient city, floating on water. Do you know about Nan Madol? It's this mind-blowing ancient city built on a series of small islands off the coast of Micronesia. Think of it as a real-life Atlantis, but instead of myth, it's packed with history. Dating back to around the 12th century, this city is famous for its stunning temples made of stacked basalt rock. The craftsmanship is incredible. These massive stones were expertly shaped and placed without any mortar. Nan Madol, often called the Venice of the Pacific, is believed to have been a ceremonial center and maybe even the home of a royal family. It holds deep cultural significance for the local people. Imagine uncovering the secrets of a place that's been shrouded in mystery for centuries. The ancient megacity in the jungle. Angkor, the breathtaking archaeological gem in Cambodia, is like a portal back to the grandeur of the Khmer Empire, which thrived from the 9th to the 15th centuries. This ancient city, sprawling over 162 hectares, is home to magnificent temples, with Angkor Wat stealing the show as the largest religious monument in the world. Just think about it, one temple bigger than some entire cities. Recently, archaeologists have been turning to advanced X-ray LIDAR technology to delve deeper into Angkor's mysteries. And guess what? They've uncovered a hidden megacity beneath the jungle, stretching for hundreds of miles and housing thousands of households. It's way larger than anyone ever imagined. This discovery shakes up everything we thought we knew about Angkor, raising questions about how such a sophisticated civilization, complete with a complex water management system that rivals modern engineering, could just vanish. What if those very channels that sustained life there also contributed to its downfall? What's the story behind the sudden disappearance of a city that once thrived? So many secrets still to uncover. Buddhist temples in Pakistan. There's no way you would expect to find some of the oldest known Buddhist temples in Pakistan, right? But they're right there in the Swat Valley and Taxila. It's pretty insane to think about how rich the region's Buddhist history is. This area was once a thriving hub for Buddhist thought and culture, especially during the Gandhara period. which lasted from around the 5th century BCE to the 5th century CE. Take the Chandigarh Stupa, for instance. It's a treasure from the past that speaks volumes about the region's rich history. Unfortunately, the Taliban destroyed a significant Buddha statue in Swat, which was a devastating loss. But the good news is that efforts have been made to restore these ancient sites. Nalanda, the world's first ever university. Did you know that the world's oldest university was once thriving in India? Welcome to Nalanda, a massive learning center that dates back to the 5th century CE. This place was like the Harvard or Oxford of its time, but on a whole different level. Scholars from all across Asia flocked here to study subjects ranging from Buddhist philosophy to astronomy and medicine. It wasn't just a school, it was a full-fledged campus with grand lecture halls, student dorms, temples, and libraries filled with manuscripts on everything imaginable. But then, in the late 12th century, tragedy struck. Nalanda was destroyed during invasions, and its legendary library, said to have burned for months, was lost to the ashes. Think about it. Centuries of knowledge gone just like that. It's ridiculously hard to grasp the scale of this loss, not just for India, but for the entire world. Thankfully, the story doesn't end there. Archaeologists rediscovered the ruins of Nalanda, and now it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The ancient Arabian city of Dadan. The ancient Arabian city of Dadan was seriously ahead of its time. Nestled in what's now Saudi Arabia, Dadan was a bustling city way back between the 6th and 8th centuries BCE, with tons of fascinating stuff going on, from agriculture to religion. But here's the kicker. Women in Dadan weren't just part of the scene. They were actually running things. Over 300 inscriptions have been found, detailing everything from prayers to property ownership, and some of those inscriptions, they show women owning land and even leading religious ceremonies. Yes, you heard that right. Women in ancient Dadan were out there owning property and performing sacred rituals. Talk about feminist powerhouses before it was even a thing, right? And Dadan wasn't just surviving in the desert, it had a thriving agricultural system, using irrigation to grow crops in the middle of what's now some pretty arid land. The lost city of Luxor. Can you believe archaeologists set out looking for King Tut's mortuary temple and instead uncovered an entire city from around 3,000 years ago? Well, that's what happened in Luxor, where they found a vibrant settlement from the time of King Amenhotep III, complete with mud brick houses and bricks bearing his insignia. How cool is that? Walking through this lost city feels like diving into a time machine. They found all sorts of everyday stuff, wine vessels, scarabs, and even weaving tools that give us a glimpse into life back then. Oh, and here's a fun fact. This is also where people started worshipping the sun god Aten. The ancient city gate in Henan. Situated in Henan province, the Yai ruins discovered in 1983 take us back to the days of the Xia and early Shang dynasties. Dating back to around 2000 to 1500 BC, Yanxi is one of the earliest examples of urban planning in China. Just imagine a vibrant city covering 2 square kilometers, complete with a palace complex and carefully laid out streets. Pretty cool, right? The city was divided into 3 main areas: the big city, the small city, and the city palace. This layered setup shows us how they organized their society and defended their home from potential invaders. Speaking of defense, let's talk about the recently uncovered city gate. This isn't just any ordinary gate. It's about 3.2 meters wide, narrow enough to make it tough for enemies to storm through. The gate features a covered channel beneath it, with stone slabs on top, allowing people to cross while keeping the ground safe from flooding. It's like they had their own version of a modern-day traffic control system, designed to keep things secure while allowing movement in and out of the city. India's sunken city of Dwarka. Dwarka has always been one of those legendary places straight out of myth, right? According to ancient stories, this was the kingdom of Lord Krishna, a thriving, magnificent city full of grand palaces and temples. But here's the twist. After Krishna's death, the entire city was swallowed by the sea. For centuries, people thought it was just a tale. Then, in the late 80s, something incredible happened. archaeologists actually found it. Turns out, Dwarka wasn't just a figment of imagination. Beneath the waters off the coast of Gujarat, they uncovered an 84-kilometer-long fortified city. And it wasn't just some scattered ruins either. This place had more than 500 artifacts, including pottery, with gorgeous polychrome and bichrome designs. Even Prime Minister Narendra Modi got in on the action. He actually suited up and dove down to pay his respects to this sunken wonder. How often do you hear about a world leader taking a dive to honor an ancient city underwater? Apollo, Cassandra, and a charming canine.
Now let's take you to Pompeii, the southern Italian city famously buried in an eruption from Mount Vesuvius almost 2,000 years ago. Well, stunning artworks have been uncovered in a new excavation of a previously undiscovered part of the ancient site.
In an exciting twist, new paintings have been uncovered in Pompeii, revealing a hidden gem known as the Black Room, which lay buried for over 2,000 years. One standout feature, a vibrant depiction of Apollo with his lyre chatting with Cassandra. But wait, there's more. A charming little dog also appears in a different artwork, capturing the hearts of everyone who sees it. This pup adds a playful touch to the scene, and you can almost imagine it wagging its tail as the myths unfold. Now let's talk about the room itself. The walls are painted black, which might seem a bit unusual, but picture this. Back in the day, it would have been lit up with oil lamps, creating a cozy atmosphere that made those colors really pop. It must have been a stunning sight. And check out the white mosaic floor. While it looks pretty plain at first glance, it actually serves a smart purpose. Those bright tiles reflect light, making the whole room feel airy and bright, perfect for showing those gorgeous paintings. A lost city within the earth? Imagine this, a hollow earth, a subterranean world with its own atmosphere, even its own inhabitants. It sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? Throughout history, various cultures have hinted at this idea through pictograms and cave drawings. These ancient depictions often suggest that there's more beneath our feet than just rock and magma. Some people even entertain the idea of a hidden paradise inside the earth, a modern-day Garden of Eden. Well, it might just be true, and the door of Machpelah, a sacred site in Jewish and Islamic tradition, might be a gateway to this hidden paradise. According to ancient texts like the Sefer Temuna, this door could lead to a lush underground world, filled with rivers, greenery, and maybe even ancient civilizations. Who knows what secrets lie beneath the Earth's surface? Maybe there's a whole other world down there, just waiting to be discovered. It's a fascinating idea, isn't it? The 3,000-year-old bust of a Queen Mother. What would you do if you stumbled upon a piece of history that dates back 3,000 years? Well, archaeologists discovered a stunning bust believed to be the Queen Mother of the Tamanana dynasty, which thrived in the first millennium BC in modern-day southern Turkey. This isn't just any sculpture, it's a towering 1-meter-long masterpiece, showcasing her head and upper torso with incredible detail. What really catches the eye is the shawl elegantly draped over her head, all carved from a single block of stone. Talk about craftsmanship. This bust isn't just a beautiful artifact. It represents the significant role women played in ancient society. It makes you wonder about the life of this Queen Mother, her power, her influence, and the stories she could tell from a time long gone. What other secrets might she hold? The musical pillars of the Vitala Temple. Have you heard of the Vitala Temple in Hampi, India? Well, it's not just any old temple. It's an insane masterpiece that dates back to the 15th century. What makes it super special are the 56 musical pillars. Each one of these granite pillars is tuned to specific notes from the Indian classical scale, Sarigama. Just imagine walking through the temple and tapping on these pillars to hear actual music. Each strike produces a unique sound, turning the temple into a kind of ancient concert hall. It's like stepping into a scene where musicians once played alongside these magical stones, creating a vibrant atmosphere filled with music and ritual. The underground city you won't believe exists. Ever heard of an entire city hidden underground? That's Derinkuyu in Cappadocia, Turkey. an ancient, mind-blowing network carved into volcanic rock that plunges 60 meters deep. Discovered by accident in 1963, this place could house thousands of people across 8 underground levels. Derinkuyu isn't just a few tunnels. It's got living quarters, food storage, wine presses, chapels, and even stables for livestock. And the engineering, next-level genius. There are hundreds of ventilation shafts that kept the air flowing, even deep below the surface. Plus, massive stone doors could be rolled in to block entrances, perfect for keeping out invaders. It's believed early Christians used it to escape persecution, so it wasn't just a home, it was a fortress of survival. And get this, Derinkuyu is only one of many underground cities in the region. Imagine what else is hiding beneath the surface. Another underground city in Turkey. As if Turkey didn't have enough surprises beneath the surface, there's another underground city recently discovered in Midyat, near the Syrian border. While Derinkuyu in Cappadocia is famous, this new subterranean marvel is just as impressive. In 2020, during routine housework, workers stumbled upon a hidden entrance that led to a sprawling underground complex. Archaeologists believe it could stretch over 100,000 square feet and date back about 2,000 years. Unlike Derinkuyu, which was mainly a hideout during invasions, Midyat's underground city seems to have been a fully functioning community, complete with homes, wells, storage areas, and even wine cellars. The discovery is still unfolding, and they're just beginning to explore the full extent of this hidden city. With each new find, Turkey's underground secrets only get more fascinating. How big could this one really be? The Cahokia Mounds, America's forgotten ancient city. The ancient city of Cahokia, located near modern-day St. Louis, was once the largest and most complex urban center north of Mexico. Around 1,000 years ago, Cahokia thrived, with a population larger than London's at the time. What's left today are the Cahokia Mounds, massive earthen structures that give us a glimpse into the lives of its mysterious builders. The heart of Cahokia was Monk's Mound, a 100-foot-tall structure that was likely the ceremonial center of the city. Surrounding it were dozens of smaller mounds used for burial, housing, and religious ceremonies. At its peak, Cahokia was home to 20,000 people, with neighborhoods, plazas, and a wooden stockade that encircled the city. The residents were skilled farmers, and their complex society relied heavily on corn agriculture. But Cahokia wasn't just about farming. There's evidence of extensive trade networks stretching from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico. The city was a bustling hub of culture, commerce, and spirituality. So, what happened? Around 1350, Cahokia was mysteriously abandoned. Some believe it was due to environmental stress, while others think social unrest or warfare led to its downfall. Today, the Cahokia Mound State Historic Site stands as a reminder of this forgotten ancient metropolis, offering a window into a fascinating chapter of pre-Columbian America. The lost city of the Maya. Hidden deep within the Guatemalan jungle lies Tikal, one of the most powerful cities of the ancient Maya civilization. Founded around 400 BCE, Tikal became a major player between 200 and 900 CE. At its height, it may have been home to 90,000 people, making it one of the largest cities of its time. Tikal wasn't just large, it was architecturally stunning. Towering temples, like Temple 1 and Temple 4, still rise above the jungle canopy, reaching heights of over 200 feet. The city's layout included palaces, plazas, and ball courts, all interconnected by causeways and surrounded by dense rainforest. But Tikal wasn't just about architecture, it was a major hub for trade, politics, and warfare. The city formed alliances and fought fierce battles with rival Maya cities like Calakmul. Its strategic location allowed it to control trade routes between the highlands and lowlands, with goods like obsidian, jade, and exotic feathers flowing through the city. Despite its power, Tikal fell into decline around the 9th century CE. By the 10th century, it was abandoned, its grand temples swallowed by the jungle. The reasons for its collapse are still debated. Some suggest drought, deforestation, or warfare. Ziggurat of Ur. The Ziggurat of Ur is basically one of the coolest leftovers from ancient Mesopotamia. It's a massive tiered temple that's been sitting near modern-day Nasiriyah, Iraq, for over 4,000 years. Built way back in the 21st century BCE, during the early Bronze Age, it was dedicated to Nana, the moon god. Back then, Ur was one of the most powerful cities around. And this wasn't just some random temple, it was a flex. It showed off the city's religious devotion, political power, and insane architectural skills all in one. The guy behind the project was King Ur-Nammu, founder of the third dynasty of Ur. He was all about consolidating power and making his mark, but he didn't live long enough to see it finished. That job went to his son, King Shulgi, who ruled for a solid 48 years and turned Ur into a powerhouse across Mesopotamia. The ziggurat was just one part of a massive city complex, packed with palaces, temples, and administrative buildings. Think of it like the ancient equivalent of a city skyline, with this giant structure dominating the scene. For something built thousands of years ago, the ziggurat was designed to last. Its core was made of mud bricks, covered with baked bricks set in bitumen, a tar-like substance that acted as an ancient waterproofing method. Given Mesopotamia's unpredictable climate, that was a pretty smart move. The whole thing was about 64 meters long, 45 meters wide, and over 30 meters tall. Not exactly a modern skyscraper, but for the time, it was a major feat of engineering. To reach the top, you had to climb a grand staircase, which has been partially reconstructed today. At the summit, there was once a temple dedicated to Nana, where priests would perform rituals and offerings. Unlike later places of worship, this wasn't somewhere the general public could just stroll into. It was a sacred space, reserved for the elite, the priests, and of course, the gods. Over the centuries, the ziggurat took a beating. By the 6th century BCE, long after Ur had lost its status as a major power, King Nabonidus of the Neo-Babylonian Empire decided to give it a facelift. He went all out, restoring it and adding more stages to turn it into a 7-tiered tower. Babylonian rulers at the time were really into linking themselves to past kings, and restoring ancient monuments was a great way to flex their connection to history. Fast forward to the 1920s and 30s, and British archaeologist Sir Leonard Woolley led digs that uncovered a lot of what we know about the ziggurat today. His work helped prove that this wasn't just an administrative building. It was a major religious site with deep cultural significance. Then, in the 1980s, Saddam Hussein ordered a partial reconstruction, fixing up the facade and grand staircase as part of a campaign to celebrate Iraq's ancient history. But the ziggurat didn't escape modern conflict. During the Gulf War in 1991, it took some damage from bullets and bombs. But ancient wonders aren't just limited to Mesopotamia. Some are perched high up in the mountains, defying gravity itself, like Paro Taktsang Monastery. Paro Taktsang, better known as the Tiger's Nest Monastery, is one of the most breathtaking and revered Buddhist sites in Bhutan. Perched dramatically on a cliffside in the Upper Paro Valley, it sits at around 3,100 meters above sea level, offering an absolutely stunning view of the surrounding mountains and forests. The location alone makes it feel like something out of a legend, and as it turns out, that's exactly what it is. The origins of Tiger's Nest trace back to the 8th century, when Guru Padmasambhava, also known as Guru Rinpoche, supposedly flew to this very spot on the back of a tigress. This wasn't just any ride. The tigress was believed to be a transformed disciple of his. Once he arrived, he meditated inside a cave here for what might be the most specific duration in history: 3 years, 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days, and 3 hours. During this time, he subdued local deities and spirits, converting them to Buddhism. For centuries, the site remained a place of pilgrimage and meditation, but it wasn't until 1692 that it became the grand monastery we see today. Gyaltse Tenzin Rabge IV DC decided to build a monastery around the original meditation cave. It wasn't just a simple structure, it was an architectural marvel. The buildings seemed to cling to the sheer rock face, as if they were part of the mountain itself. The monastery complex consists of 4 main temples and several smaller residential quarters, all connected by stairways carved directly into the rock. The whole place is designed to blend seamlessly with its surroundings, creating the illusion that it naturally grew out of the cliffs. Balconies extend over the edge, giving visitors a panoramic view of the Paro Valley below. It's one of those places where every step feels like a mix of awe and vertigo. From the misty cliffs of Bhutan to the vibrant heart of India, sacred spaces come in all shapes and sizes. The Meenakshi Amman Temple, also called Arulmigu Meenakshi Sundareswara Temple, is one of the most breathtaking and historically rich temples in India. It sits in the heart of Madurai, Tamil Nadu, right on the southern bank of the Vaigai River. This isn't just any temple. It is a massive, vibrant, and deeply sacred space dedicated to goddess Meenakshi, a powerful form of Parvati, and her divine consort, Lord Sundareswara, a form of Shiva. The temple is not just a place of worship. It is an architectural masterpiece, a cultural icon, and an experience unlike any other. The origins of the temple stretch so far back that they are woven into ancient Tamil legends. References to Meenakshi Amman Temple appear in Tamil Sangam literature as early as the 6th century CE, meaning it has been a spiritual center for well over 1,000 years. Over time, different rulers expanded and enhanced it, with the biggest transformation happening during the Nayak dynasty in the 16th and 17th centuries. They poured immense effort into making the temple grander, adding the intricate carvings, massive towers, and elaborate corridors that still stand today. Covering around 15 acres, the temple complex is nothing short of enormous. One of its most striking features is its 14 towering gopurams, or gateway towers, each adorned with thousands of colorful sculptures depicting gods, goddesses, demons, celestial beings, and mythical creatures. These figures are not just decorative. They tell stories from Hindu scriptures, bringing legends to life through stone and paint. The tallest of these towers reaches about 170 feet into the sky, making it an unmissable landmark in Madurai. The sheer scale and detail of the artwork are overwhelming, a testament to the skill and devotion of the artisans who crafted it centuries ago. At the heart of the temple is the Potramarai Kulam, or the Golden Lotus Pond. This sacred water tank is surrounded by various shrines and halls, serving as a peaceful center amidst the grandeur. According to legend, the lotus in this pond bloomed with divine energy and was used by the gods to judge the quality of Tamil literature. Even today, it remains an important part of the temple, where visitors often sit and reflect before heading into the inner sanctums. Going from ancient temples covered in intricate carvings to a church that looks like it was carved by a volcano, things are about to get a lot more minimalist. Hallgrímskirkja is hands down one of the most recognizable landmarks in Reykjavik. At 74.5 meters tall, it's the biggest church in Iceland and one of the tallest buildings in the country, so you can pretty much see it from anywhere in the city. Whether you're wandering the streets of Reykjavik or flying in from the airport, it stands out like a giant stone rocket towering over everything around it. The church is named after Hallgrímur Pétursson, a famous Icelandic poet and clergyman from the 1600s, best known for writing the Passion hymns. The design, though, came centuries later, in 1937, when Iceland's state architect Guðjón Samúelsson came up with something completely different from your usual European church. Construction started in 1945, but thanks to Iceland's tough weather and the sheer scale of the project, it took over 40 years to finish. It wasn't officially completed until 1986, which is a ridiculously long time, but the final result was worth it. What makes Hallgrímskirkja so special is its design. Instead of modeling it after traditional cathedrals, Samúelsson took inspiration from Iceland's natural landscape, specifically the towering basalt columns that form when lava cools. If you've ever seen Svartifoss waterfall, you'll notice the similarity right away. The church looks like it was sculpted straight out of a lava flow, its massive, curved structure rising into the sky like something nature itself built. It's bold, dramatic, and completely unique, making it stand out not just in Iceland, but worldwide. Step inside and you'll notice it's a lot more minimalistic than many European churches. No fancy stained glass, no gold-covered statues, just clean lines, open space, and a peaceful atmosphere. But there is one seriously impressive feature: the pipe organ. Built by German organ maker Johannes Kleiss, this beast of an instrument is 15 meters tall, weighs 25 tons, and has over 5,000 pipes. It can go from soft and delicate to a full-on earthquake of sound, which is why the church isn't just used for religious services, but also for concerts. If you ever get the chance to hear the organ in action, it's an experience you won't forget. From a church inspired by lava to a temple that looks like a stone mountain of enlightenment, the journey continues. Borobudur is hands down one of the most incredible Buddhist monuments in the world, sitting right in the heart of central Java, Indonesia. This ancient temple isn't just a pile of old stones. It's a masterpiece of architecture and spirituality, packed with intricate carvings and hundreds of Buddha statues, all built way back in the 9th century during the Sailendra dynasty. But Borobudur isn't just about history. It's designed as a full-on spiritual journey, meant to guide visitors through different levels of Buddhist teachings as they climb toward enlightenment. The setting couldn't be more perfect. Borobudur sits between two massive volcanoes, Merapi and Merbabu, with the Progo and Ilo rivers flowing nearby. The whole place feels like something out of a legend, surrounded by these powerful natural forces that in a way mirror Buddhist ideas about impermanence and rebirth. It's about a 40-kilometer drive from Yogyakarta, making it an easy day trip if you're looking to dive into ancient history and take in some breathtaking views. The temple was built by the Sailendra dynasty, a powerful Buddhist ruling family during the 8th and 9th centuries. Back then, Buddhism was thriving in Java, and Borobudur was their way of showing devotion, basically a giant, sacred space for worship and meditation. But times changed, and as Hinduism and later Islam became more dominant in the region, Borobudur was eventually abandoned. By the 14th century, it was buried under layers of volcanic ash and jungle growth, left to be forgotten for centuries. It wasn't until 1814, when British Governor Sir Thomas Stamford Raffles happened to stumble upon it, that Borobudur started getting the attention it deserved. Now let's talk about that design, because it's pure genius. Imagine a massive step pyramid with 9 levels, almost like a giant stone mandala. The first 6 terraces are square, leading up to 3 circular platforms, and at the very top sits the grand central stupa. But this isn't just some cool architectural choice. Each level represents a stage in the Buddhist path to enlightenment. At the base, you have Kamadhatu, the realm of desire, basically the world of material attachments, temptations, and distractions that keep people stuck in suffering. As you climb higher, you reach Rupadhatu, the realm of form, where people start letting go of those worldly desires and focus on spiritual growth. Finally, at the top, there's Arupadhatu, the formless realm, symbolizing nirvana, the ultimate state of enlightenment, where suffering and attachments disappear. So walking up Borobudur isn't just sightseeing. It's meant to be a symbolic journey, a way to reflect on life and the path to something greater. From one breathtaking Buddhist monument to another, this next one takes golden grandeur to a whole new level. The Shwedagon Pagoda isn't just a stupa, it's the crown jewel of Yangon, shining bright with gold and history. Sitting on Singutara Hill, it's impossible to miss, towering over the city and glowing at sunrise, sunset, and pretty much any time light touches it. It's not just a religious site, it's a huge part of Myanmar's culture, spirituality, and identity. There's an old legend that says the pagoda is over 2,600 years old, making it one of the oldest Buddhist stupas in the world. According to the story, 2 merchant brothers, Tapusa and Palika, met Gautama Buddha while traveling. As a blessing, he gave them 8 strands of his hair, which they brought back to Myanmar and enshrined on Singutara Hill. And just like that, the Shwedagon Pagoda was born. Of course, historians think it was actually built between the 6th and 10th centuries by the Mon people, but either way, it's been standing for an incredibly long time. The pagoda itself is a masterpiece. It stands about 99 meters, 325 feet tall, and is completely covered in gold, real gold. Over the centuries, Burmese people, from kings to everyday citizens, have donated gold plates to keep it shining. And at the very top, things get even more extravagant. The HTI is decked out with over 4,500 diamonds, including a massive 72-carat one. So yeah, it's basically a giant golden beacon. But there's more to it than just the main stupa. The whole complex is packed with smaller temples, shrines, statues, and intricate carvings, reflecting over 2,500 years of Buddhist art and architecture. Every corner has something fascinating. Buddha statues in different poses, detailed woodwork, and vibrant glass mosaics. It's the kind of place where you could wander for hours and still find new things to admire. From golden pagodas to Gothic masterpieces, this next landmark is one of the most iconic sites in Paris. Notre Dame de Paris is more than just a cathedral. It's a symbol of Paris, a masterpiece of Gothic architecture, and a witness to centuries of history. Sitting right in the heart of the city, on Ile de la Cité, it has stood through revolutions, wars, and even a devastating fire, only to rise again. Whether you're into history, architecture, or just the magic of old places, Notre Dame has a story to tell. The construction of Notre Dame began in 1163, commissioned by Bishop Maurice de Sully, and it took almost a century to complete. That was pretty standard for the time. These grand medieval cathedrals weren't built overnight. By the time it was finished, around 1260, it was already a breathtaking example of Gothic architecture, with its towering spires, intricate sculptures, and massive stained glass windows. Over the centuries, Notre Dame became the backdrop for some of France's biggest historical moments. But not all of them were glamorous. During the French Revolution in the 1790s, the cathedral suffered extensive damage. Revolutionaries, furious with the monarchy and the church's power, went on a rampage, destroying religious statues and even decapitating the figures of biblical kings on the facade. For a while, the cathedral was even repurposed as a warehouse. By the 19th century, Notre Dame was in serious disrepair, practically crumbling. But then Victor Hugo's novel Notre Dame de Paris came out in 1831, and people fell in love with the cathedral all over again. Hugo's story sparked a wave of public interest, and soon a full restoration project was launched, led by the architect Eugène Viollet-le-Duc. This was when the famous spire was added, the very same one that would be lost in the fire nearly 200 years later. Notre Dame is a textbook example of Gothic architecture. Those massive flying buttresses along the sides, they aren't just for show. They were an engineering breakthrough, supporting the cathedral's walls and allowing for its iconic tall windows. Inside, the ribbed vaults give the ceiling an airy, almost weightless feel despite the stone structure. And then there are the rose windows, enormous, intricately designed, stained glass masterpieces that filter colored light into the nave. The cathedral is also home to some of Christianity's most precious relics, including the crown of thorns, believed to have been worn by Jesus, and a fragment of the true cross. These sacred objects have made Notre Dame an important pilgrimage site for centuries. It's also been the setting for major events, from Napoleon's self-coronation in 1804 to celebrations marking the liberation of Paris in 1944. Then came April 15, 2019, the day the world watched in horror as Notre Dame caught fire. Flames spread rapidly through the wooden framework of the roof, and after burning for hours, the iconic spire collapsed. Firefighters battled desperately to save what they could, and against all odds, the main structure, the towers, and most of the priceless artifacts were spared. Still, the damage was devastating. Now let's head to Uzbekistan, where one towering structure has stood the test of time. The Kalyan Minaret, or Kalon Minaret, is one of those ancient structures that instantly commands attention. Towering over Bukhara, Uzbekistan, this 900-year-old masterpiece has seen empires rise and fall, survived Mongol invasions, and even picked up a pretty terrifying nickname along the way. Built in 1127 by Muhammad Arslan Khan of the Karakhanid dynasty, it wasn't just meant to be a decorative piece. It played a central role in the religious and social life of the city. Standing at 45.6 meters tall, the minaret was the tallest structure in Central Asia when it was built, and honestly, it still dominates the skyline today. Its base is about 9 meters wide, gradually tapering to 6 meters at the top, giving it that elegant yet sturdy look. Made entirely of baked brick, it isn't just a simple tower. Every inch of it is decorated with intricate patterns and inscriptions in Kufic script. The detailing is incredibly precise, with the repeating geometric designs showcasing the artistry of the time. One of its standout architectural features is the top section, which has 16 arched windows set beneath a beautifully carved stalactite cornice known as sharafa. This rotunda-like structure at the top was designed not just for looks, but also to project the call to prayer across the city. Inside, a narrow spiral staircase winds its way to the top, where the muezzin once stood to call people to prayer from the adjacent Poi Kalyan Mosque. Climbing it must have been quite the workout, but the view from up there probably breathtaking. From towering minarets to remote island retreats, history has a way of leaving its mark in the most unexpected places. Skellig Michael, or Shiog Michiel in Irish, is one of those places that looks like it was plucked straight from a fantasy novel. Jutting out of the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of County Kerry, Ireland, this rugged little island has an air of mystery about it, and for good reason. Not only is it home to a centuries-old monastery perched dramatically on its steep cliffs, but it has also survived Viking raids, wild weather, and the occasional Hollywood invasion. The island's story goes way back, somewhere between the 6th and 8th centuries. A group of Gaelic Christian monks decided this remote rock in the middle of the ocean was the perfect place to dedicate themselves to prayer and solitude. Whether they were looking for peace, a stronger connection to God, or just really didn't like people, they built an incredible monastery up on the cliffs. The first known mention of monastic life on Skellig Michael comes from the death of a monk named Suibne in the 8th century, proving that people really were toughing it out there over 1,000 years ago. But even the isolation of Skellig Michael couldn't keep trouble away forever. The Vikings, known for their love of raiding monasteries, showed up in 823 and again in 838, looting the settlement and even kidnapping the abbot, Eidgal, who tragically died of starvation in captivity. Despite these brutal attacks, the monks hung on for a few more centuries before finally leaving in the late 12th or early 13th century. Why they abandoned the island isn't entirely clear, but it was likely a mix of worsening weather, continuous Viking threats, and changes in the structure of the Irish church. Whatever the reason, the monastery was left behind, and Skellig Michael slowly faded into legend. On the other hand, Las Lajas Sanctuary may not have been built by monks on a remote island, but its origins are just as mysterious. Las Lajas Sanctuary is one of those places that doesn't even seem real until you see it with your own eyes. Perched high above the Guaitara River in southern Colombia, it's a stunning neo-Gothic basilica built right into the canyon walls, with towering spires, intricate stonework, and a bridge that stretches across the gorge like something straight out of history. It took more than 30 years to complete, from 1916 to 1949, and it's easy to see why. Every detail is breathtaking, from the pointed arches to the way the whole structure blends into the rugged landscape. But what really makes it special is the legend that started it all. Back in 1754, a woman named Maria Meneses de Quiñones and her daughter Rosa were passing through the canyon when a storm rolled in. Looking for shelter, they huddled against the rocks, when suddenly, Rosa, who had been deaf and mute her entire life, started speaking. She told her mother that the Virgin Mary was calling her. Understandably, her mother was completely stunned, but things got even stranger when they discovered an image of the Virgin and Child imprinted on a stone slab nearby. No one could explain how it got there, and to this day, no paint, dye, or carving techniques have been identified. Word spread, and before long, pilgrims started showing up, hoping for miracles of their own. At first, there was only a small shrine, but over time, it kept growing. More and more people came, bringing offerings and building up the site little by little, until eventually, the grand basilica we see today was constructed. Do you think the Tower of Babel was really found? Maybe there's a secret meaning behind other religious buildings.